In silence, she senses. In stillness, she knows. Even when the world tries to deceive her, her spirit whispers the truth. A woman's sixth sense is not just a mystical idea. It is the language of the universe that she was born understanding. Not taught but remembered, a woman doesn't need to be told everything. She can feel it, in the way someone breathes near her, in the sudden shift in tone, in the pause before the answer. She senses what is not said louder than what is. In the Shaolin tradition, we train the mind to be still, so we may see without eyes and hear without ears. But women are born with this gift already within. This sixth sense is intuition, but it's more than a feeling. It's ancient knowing. It's the energy of the mother, the depth of the moon, the stillness of the mountain, and yet modern life tells her to ignore it, to call it overthinking, emotional, paranoid. But what the world calls paranoia is often her spiritual protection whispering, "This path is not safe. That person is not real. This place is not for you." When she listens, she survives. When she doubts, she suffers. There is power in a woman who trusts her gut over noise, power in a woman who walks away, not because of proof, but because of peace. Power in a woman who says, "I do not need to explain, I just know." That is not weakness. That is spiritual self-defense, and yet the sixth sense is not just to detect danger. It is to guide her to purpose, to recognize the unseen gifts, to feel when her child is in pain before a word is spoken, to sense when her lover is lying even with a smile, to know when to move and when to stay still. This sense cannot be bought. It cannot be learned in books. It is a flame inside her waiting to be honored. It is a flame inside her waiting to be honored. So I say this to every woman: stop doubting what your soul already knows. Stop silencing the voice inside just to be liked, accepted, or understood. Even if the world thinks you're crazy, if your heart says no. Trust it, because your sixth sense was never meant to be explained. It was meant to protect you, elevate you, and awaken you. Women are born with intuition, not taught it. From the moment she enters this world, a woman carries with her a sense that cannot be taught, a knowing that runs deeper than thought, deeper than words, and deeper than logic. This is not something she acquires through education, reading, or repetition. It is something already embedded in her spirit, an ancient wisdom that lives in her bones, her blood, her breath. Her intuition, often referred to as the sixth sense, is not a myth or mystery. It is a form of intelligence that goes beyond the mind. While the world trains people to analyze, to rationalize, to measure with evidence, a woman often simply knows without needing external validation. Even as a child, before she fully understands language, she senses who is safe and who is not. She feels when something is wrong even when everyone around her says it's fine. Her inner world speaks through sensations, through gut feelings, through an invisible pull or push inside her chest. And when she listens, she moves in alignment with something higher than herself, something cosmic. This is not superstition, it is not drama, it is the quiet guidance of her spirit, passed down from generations of women who survived not just by strength, but by sensing what others could not see. In ancient times, women were the healers, the seers, the dream interpreters, because they were trusted for this exact gift, the ability to perceive truth beyond appearances. Yet modern society tries to strip her of this birthright. It tells her to second guess herself, to doubt what she feels, to trust statistics over soul. She's told to stop being emotional, to wait for facts, to prove her knowing even when her entire body already whispers the truth. But this sense is not of the mind, it is of the soul. It is not sharpened by logic, it is awakened by presence. And the more she returns to herself, the more clearly she hears it. She feels energy before words are spoken, before a person speaks, before their mouth forms a single word. A woman already knows, not from what is said, but from what is felt. This is the silent language of energy the unseen force that moves between souls, and a woman's sixth sense reads it fluently. She doesn't need the full story. She doesn't need a confession. She doesn't even need eye contact. Sometimes just your presence is enough for her spirit to understand exactly who you are. It could be the way you avoid a question, the delay before you answer, the smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. The tension in the air when you walk into the room. Most won't notice these things, but she will, because she's not only listening with her ears, she's listening with her skin, her chest, her heart, her womb. Every cell in her body is a receptor, a sensor, and when something feels off, she doesn't always know why, but she knows. Words can be polished, faces can be rehearsed, stories can be manipulated, but energy cannot lie. And women, by nature, are attuned to the unspoken. They are emotional alchemists, able to feel a change in atmosphere, the way one senses the weather before a storm. Her body may tense, her chest may tighten, or her breath may shorten, all before a single word is exchanged. Some call it sensitivity, some call it mood, but it is neither. It is perception in its rawest form, instinct sharpened by generations of survival, heartbreak, motherhood, betrayal, and care. This gift allows her to sense danger before it happens, to read people before they show their true face, and to protect what she loves without needing a reason. While the world often values logic and evidence, a woman's true strength lies in what she can feel in silence. You might say all the right things, but if your energy is inconsistent, she will feel it. If your heart is somewhere else, she will know it. If your spirit is in conflict, she will sense it before you admit it. And often, she won't confront you immediately. She will observe. She will watch how your words and your presence either align or contradict each other. Because for her, truth is not what you say, truth is how your energy feels. Her intuition is spiritual self-defense. The world often mocks what it cannot understand, and perhaps this is why a woman's intuition, her sixth sense, has so often been dismissed, belittled, or shamed. It is called overreaction, it is labeled drama, it is reduced to emotion, but what many fail to see is that this intuitive force is not weakness, it is her armor. It is spiritual self-defense, a sacred internal system designed to alert, protect, and guide her when words fail and logic falls silent. Throughout history, women have survived not only through physical strength, but through energetic awareness. In places where truth was hidden, where intentions were masked, where appearances were deceiving, it was this invisible inner alarm that warned her, "Leave, watch closer, something's not right." She may not always be able to explain why. She may not have proof, but her body will shift, her heart will race, her peace will disappear, and when that happens, she is not being paranoid, she is being protected. This internal defense system sharpens especially in environments where safety is uncertain. A woman can walk into a room and instantly feel the undercurrent without a word being spoken. She can be in a relationship and sense disloyalty long before the truth is revealed. She can feel when her child is in distress, even across great distances, even in her sleep. This is not magic. It is spiritual intelligence encoded into her soul. What society calls irrational, nature calls instinct. What others label sensitivity is actually her early warning system, a radar for dishonesty, manipulation, danger, and betrayal. Yet, over time, this gift can become dulled, not by nature, but by noise, by voices telling her, "You're imagining things," or "You're too emotional," or "You're just insecure." She begins to silence the voice inside that was meant to protect her. And so, she stays where she should have walked away. She trusts when she should have questioned. She tolerates when she should have left, not because she didn't know, but because she was taught not to believe herself. But the truth is, when a woman honors her sixth sense, she doesn't need to fight to be safe. She doesn't need to wait for things to fall apart to justify leaving. She doesn't need chaos to validate her boundaries. Her knowing is her weapon, her sensing is her shield. Her inner voice is not a suggestion, it's a command from the divine. When she listens to her gut, she avoids pain. There is a quiet moment always before the storm. A pause, a shift, a whisper within, and in that moment her soul speaks. Something isn't right. Pay attention. This is not for you. That voice doesn't yell. It doesn't argue. It doesn't beg. It's subtle, almost fragile, easy to ignore, but it is precise, and it is always early before the damage, before the betrayal, before the heartbreak. This voice lives in her gut, her center. It is not fear. It is not emotion. It is not insecurity. It is truth in its rawest, purest form, felt before it is seen. When a woman listens to her gut, she shifts timelines. She avoids relationships that would drain her. She walks away from people whose words are sweet, but whose intentions are bitter. She removes herself from places where her spirit is not welcome, even if they look perfect from the outside. Her gut does not negotiate with red flags. It doesn't care about apologies. It doesn't wait for evidence. It simply knows, and when she chooses to trust that knowing, when she doesn't need permission, confirmation, or consensus, she protects her future self from suffering. How many times has a woman said later, "I knew something was off. I felt it in my stomach. But I didn't want to seem crazy or rude. I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I stayed when I should have left." This is how intuition becomes pain when it is ignored, because pain is often the cost of silencing the truth she already knew. Pain is what enters when the door of intuition is closed. She doesn't suffer because she didn't know, she suffers because she didn't listen. Her gut is the first responder, the sacred signal, the guardian of her emotional and spiritual body. And when she begins to build trust with that voice, when she no longer needs logic to validate her sensing, she becomes unstoppable. She no longer walks into situations blindly. She no longer justifies energies that feel wrong. She no longer explains away discomfort just to keep the peace. Because she understands now, peace is not found in being agreeable. Peace is found in honoring what her inner wisdom already sees long before the eyes do. The sixth sense is connected to her emotional intelligence. At first glance, emotions and intuition may seem like separate realms, one deeply felt, the other subtly sensed, but in truth they are woven from the same sacred thread. A woman's emotional intelligence is not merely a personality trait. It is the bridge between her heart and her sixth sense, the channel through which her soul speaks. She doesn't just feel emotions, she reads them, not only in herself, but in others. A flicker of hesitation in someone's tone, a forced laugh, a nervous glance away, the subtle break in someone's rhythm when they speak. Most would miss it, but she registers it instantly, not because she's overanalyzing, but because her emotional field is wide open and incredibly receptive. Like a satellite dish, she is tuned into frequencies that others can't hear. This is not a weakness, this is perceptive power. When someone enters the room, she doesn't just hear their words, she absorbs their emotional state. She can tell if someone is anxious, distracted, lying, or hurting, even when they're smiling. She feels shifts before they become obvious. She notices inconsistencies, not because she's looking for them, but because her awareness is sensitive and alive. Her emotional intelligence enables her to name what others avoid. She sees patterns others deny. She feels tension others suppress. She senses truths others won't face. Navigate emotional landscapes with grace in conversations. She notices what's said and what's not said. She knows when someone's hiding pain, even behind laughter. Recognize when something feels off, even if it looks fine. Her heart detects misalignment, and her body carries the signal. What many call being too emotional is, in fact, empathic intelligence. And this intelligence deepens her sixth sense because emotions are not just personal, they are energetic signatures. Every person carries them, leaks them, wears them, and a woman's emotional sensitivity allows her to feel these energies as clearly as colors. But here lies the danger. The world often trains her to suppress her feelings, to be rational, to stay quiet, to dismiss her emotional data as unreliable. She's told to calm down, to stop feeling too much, to stop being soft. And the more she obeys, the more disconnected she becomes from her own inner radar. But when she reclaims her emotional power, when she honors her sensitivity instead of hiding it, her sixth sense becomes sharper than ever. Because emotional intelligence is not just a social skill, it is a spiritual tool, a compass for what is real, a translator between the unseen and the seen. And for the woman who listens, who feels, and who trusts what she senses, every emotion becomes a message, and every message becomes a map. Silence strengthens her sensing abilities. In a world filled with noise, opinions, distractions, and constant external demands, silence becomes not just a luxury, but a lifeline. For a woman, silence is more than the absence of sound. It is a sacred space where her sixth sense wakes up, where her inner voice can finally be heard without interruption. When everything around her is loud, the world, the expectations, the people who always need something from her intuition, becomes buried beneath the weight of mental chatter. It's still there, still alive, still whispering, but it becomes faint, fragile, easy to dismiss. Yet in the moments when she retreats into silence, real silence, something remarkable begins to unfold. She doesn't need to meditate like a monk. She doesn't need to go to the mountains. She just needs to pause, to disconnect, to be still even for a few minutes. And in that stillness, her spiritual receptors turn on. It is within silence that she becomes deeply present, and it is presence that makes her a powerful receiver. Like tuning a radio to a clear frequency, silence removes the static of doubt and distraction. In silence, her body speaks, her breath deepens, her heartbeat becomes noticeable. She begins to feel where energy moves and where it doesn't. She becomes aware of who drains her, who energizes her, and who pretends to care. There is a clarity that only silence can give her, a clarity that no amount of advice, overthinking, or analysis will ever provide. In silence, she remembers the truth she already knew, the truth that got lost in everyone else's voices, the truth that was drowned by the need to explain, to fix, to please. She doesn't need to ask 10 people for advice. She doesn't need to beg for signs. She just needs to listen inwardly in the quiet, and the answers will come. Because her sixth sense doesn't compete. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It waits patiently for the space to speak. The more she embraces silence, the sharper her intuitive edge becomes. She no longer reacts to everything. She observes. She discerns. She senses energy shifts before they turn into emotional storms. And the most powerful thing about this silent practice is that it's hers fully. No one can steal it. No one can twist it. No one can distort what she receives in silence, because it is pure, unfiltered truth. The silence is not empty, it is full of answers, and the woman who understands this no longer fears being alone. She cherishes solitude, because in the stillness she becomes strongest. Society teaches her to doubt her inner knowing. From a young age, most women are taught to second guess themselves, not directly perhaps, but subtly in the way the world responds to their instincts, their emotions, and their inner truth. A girl will say, "This doesn't feel right," and someone will reply, "You're just being sensitive." She'll say, "I don't trust that person." And someone will respond, "Don't judge too quickly." So begins the conditioning, so begins the quiet erasing of the most sacred part of her intuition. By the time she becomes a woman, She has learned, often unconsciously, to look outward for answers she already holds within. She becomes addicted to validation, to asking others what they think before she acts, to needing proof before she believes what she already senses. Society doesn't reward intuitive women. It rewards obedient ones. Women who follow the rules, women who prioritize logic over feeling, women who can smile while betraying their own gut. And so, many women start to dismiss the very voice that was meant to protect and guide them. They stay in relationships where something feels wrong because everyone else says, "But he's a good man." They ignore the chills that rise up their spine because their friends say, "You're imagining things." They override the tension in their body because they've been trained to believe that proof matters more than peace. But here's the silent tragedy. The more she doubts her intuition, the more disconnected she becomes from herself. And when a woman is disconnected from herself, she becomes vulnerable not just to others, but to her own self-doubt. She hesitates, she tolerates, she explains away her discomfort, not because she doesn't know, but because she's been taught not to trust what she knows. This disconnection shows up in quiet ways. The sick feeling in her stomach when she says yes, but means no. The smile she forces while something inside her aches. The sleep she loses because her spirit knows what her mouth won't say. And the world calls it stress. The world says she's overreacting, but deep down, it's the pain of betraying her own voice, because society has rewarded her when she doubts and punished her when she stands firm in her inner truth. When she speaks up, she's difficult. When she walks away without explaining, she's cold. When she trusts her gut over someone's story, she's crazy. But in reality, she's waking up. She's starting to remember that her inner knowing is not a flaw, it's a compass. And although society may not teach her to trust herself, her soul will never stop trying to lead her back to the wisdom she once doubted, back to the truth that doesn't need evidence, back to the deep feminine intelligence that lives beneath logic, beneath fear, beneath conditioning. When she detaches, she rises. There comes a moment in every woman's journey, a quiet turning point, when she no longer needs to be understood, validated, or approved. She stops trying to convince others of what she feels. She stops chasing explanations, reactions, or closure. Instead, she simply detaches, but detachment isn't coldness, it's not indifference, it's not bitterness, it is the sacred reclaiming of her power, the quiet return to herself. Detachment begins when she realizes that clinging to people, outcomes, or narratives only weakens her inner voice, that the more she tries to justify her intuition to others, the more she loses the clarity of it for herself. Because every time she explains why she's uncomfortable, why she doesn't trust, why she feels uneasy and is met with denial or dismissal, a small part of her spirit withdraws. And over time, she begins to understand, I don't need to be agreed with, I don't need to be believed, I don't even need to be liked, I just need to honor what I know. Detachment is not walking away in anger. It's walking away in awareness. It's saying, this no longer feels aligned, and I don't need to wait for proof or permission to let go. It's the moment she no longer lets energy that drains her occupy her space physically, emotionally, spiritually. The moment she stops arguing with inconsistency. The moment she stops begging to be heard in rooms where her spirit is not welcome. She doesn't force, she doesn't chase, she doesn't plead. She simply rises quietly, powerfully, without explanation. And this rising doesn't always look loud or dramatic. Sometimes it looks like going silent. Sometimes it looks like unfollowing. Sometimes it looks like not replying to the message. Sometimes it looks like choosing peace over closure. Because when she detaches, she's not giving up, she's returning home. Home to her own energy, home to her own center, home to the voice within her that always knew. Detachment frees her from the weight of other people's expectations. It allows her to stop performing, stop proving, stop pretending. It is not escape, it is expansion. In detachment, she stops trying to control. She lets things fall away naturally, relationships, situations, illusions, and in their place, something beautiful happens. She reconnects with the rhythm of her intuition. She becomes clear. She becomes calm. She becomes rooted in herself, no longer pulled in every direction by the energy of others. This is the moment her sixth sense sharpens, not through effort, but through surrender. Because when she is no longer emotionally entangled in what is not hers, she can finally hear what is hers. The moon is her mirror. There is a sacred connection between a woman and the moon, one that defies logic and transcends explanation. She may not speak of it, she may not even fully understand it, but deep down in the quietest corners of her being, she feels it. The moon does not shine with its own light, it reflects, and so does she. Her moods, her energy, her rhythms, they move in cycles, just as the moon waxes and wanes. At times, she is full of light, radiant and expressive. At others, she retreats, inward and still, like the dark moon hiding behind clouds. Society calls it mood swings, but it is not mood. It is motion, a divine pattern written into her soul. Her sixth sense becomes most alive when she honors these natural cycles, when she stops trying to be steady in a world that demands linear performance, and instead moves with the ebb and flow of her own inner tides. During the full moon, she may feel everything more intensely. She may receive visions, dreams, subtle downloads from her subconscious. During the new moon, she may feel called to rest, to retreat, to plant seeds in silence. These are not random phases. They are sacred timings, spiritual windows through which her intuition deepens. When she ignores these rhythms, she feels disconnected, anxious, and overwhelmed, like she's swimming against a current she cannot see. But when she aligns with them, something beautiful happens. Her body, mind, and soul begin to speak the same language. She begins to notice the signals. She begins to track the way her energy rises and falls with lunar phases. She notices how her creativity flows under the waxing moon, how her clarity sharpens under the full moon, how her rest becomes deeper as the moon wanes, and how her inner guidance becomes strongest when she is still. This is not superstition, it is remembrance, a return to what ancient women once knew, that the moon is not just a rock in the sky, it is a mirror to her sacred timing. And like the moon, she does not need to be full all the time to be worthy. There is wisdom in her emptiness, there is beauty in her shadow, there is power in her pause. In her darkest phases, her sixth sense does not weaken, it sharpens, because in the darkness there is silence. And in that silence, her deepest wisdom rises not in words, but in sensations, symbols, and sudden clarity. The moon reminds her that her strength is not in being constant, but in being connected. Connected to the earth, connected to her body, connected to her intuition. She is not broken when she changes, she is becoming. Just like the moon, she is always whole, even when she cannot see herself fully. She is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual. There is something mystical about her presence, something unseen yet undeniable. She walks in the physical world, yes. She cooks, she works, she nurtures, she creates. But at the same time, she is deeply rooted in the unseen, in energy, in emotion, in intuition, in essence. She is not just a body moving through space, she is a channel between two worlds. Her sixth sense is the sacred thread that weaves the material and the spiritual together. Where others see only form, she sees vibration. Where others hear only words, she feels frequency. Where others look outward, she senses inward. It is not by accident that she feels so deeply. It is not a flaw that she absorbs energy, or cries during beauty, or trembles at truth. This is her design, because women have long held the role of energetic translators, midwives between life and death. healers who touch what cannot be seen, children's emotions before a word is spoken, lovers who know something is wrong before it's ever admitted. Her body is a temple not just of creation, but of reception. It receives signs. It absorbs emotional weather. It processes more than what's spoken. And it speaks in its own language, a sudden chill, a deep sigh, a weight in the chest, a flash of knowing with no explanation. This is not imagination. This is sacred sensitivity. She is the bridge. When someone is hurting, she feels it even if they hide it. When a space is heavy, her spirit contracts even if the lights are bright and music is playing. When something is about to shift, she knows even if the world calls it a feeling. And yet, for generations, this bridge has been questioned. She's been told she's too much, too emotional, too sensitive, as if sensitivity were a sin, when in fact, it is the source of her sacred intelligence. She is not just reacting, she is receiving. She is not just emoting, she is translating energy into awareness. This ability to move between realms is why she often feels everything so intensely. She is grounded and yet spiritual, logical and yet deeply intuitive. In this way, she lives in paradox, her feet on the earth, her heart in the sky, and when she trusts that she is this bridge not broken, not strange, but designed this way, she stops apologizing for her depth. She stops hiding her knowing. She begins to walk with reverence not just for herself, but for her gift, because she is not here to prove the unseen. She is here to embody it, to live it, to feel it, to guide with it. She is the breath between science and spirit, the pulse between the tangible and the invisible, and the stronger she trusts this role, the louder her sixth sense speaks. So to every woman listening, you were never meant to doubt your power. You were never meant to silence your voice to make others comfortable, and you were never meant to explain the knowing that lives inside you. Your sixth sense is not a fantasy, it is not weakness, it is not something to hide, apologize for, or suppress. It is your compass, it is your shield, it is your connection to something far greater than logic. The world may not understand it, others may question it, but you must never forget it, because when you trust your inner voice, you don't just protect your peace, you walk in your purpose. So stop asking for permission to feel what you feel. Stop shrinking to fit places that dim your light, and stop waiting for confirmation when your soul already knows. You are not just a woman. You are the wisdom of 1,000 lifetimes flowing through one body, one heart, and one sacred sense. Trust it, follow it, live by it, and you will never be lost again.